We are back for a wingy Saturday. Weren't here last week due to the Elimination Chamber, so it feels good to be back podcasting on the weekend. Hope you guys are having a great day. Happy Saturday to you. And thanks for being here. This should be a pretty fun episode because there's lots to talk about. We've got some wrestling news. We have some Hall of Fame news. We have tons of WrestleMania news. We've got some WWE drama. We got a lot of news in the AEW side of things because tomorrow is AEW Revolution, and we're going to be here later on to predict that entire card, and we are going to be here tomorrow to watch it together live. So we'll be up here tomorrow for a full live watch-along and review. The link to tomorrow's watch-along for Revolution is already up, by the way, so go over to the main page there and check it out. Save it for tomorrow. We're going to talk about last night's SmackDown as well. Cody Rhodes had a hell of a promo responding to the John Cena heel turn. We are 1 week removed from the big John Cena heel turn last week at Elimination Chamber. John Cena isn't even going to be on TV until March 17th, and that's going to be overseas. So it's going to be a while before we see him. So we saw Cody first. I really like what Cody had to say last night, and I also really enjoyed the Bianca Belair and Naomi segment that was way better than it should have been. And I gotta give props to both of them. It was excellent, and it was really well done. And we have some news not only regarding Jade Cargill in the Bianca and Naomi story, but also Jade Cargill behind the scenes, as apparently there's some drama going on. See, wait a minute, I thought only drama was in one company. That's what Twitter says anyway. But we got some drama backstage in WWE regarding or involving Jade Cargill and Shayna Baszler. We'll talk a little bit about that situation. We're going to be talking a lot about The Rock and John Cena and some of the creative plans for those men, including a pitch for Cody to be the one to turn heel. We'll kind of talk a little bit about those tidbits floating around this week. Also, some really wonderful news involving the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about Lex Luger being inducted this year's Hall of Fame. We've got some more AEW departures. We've got some Rey Fenix news. Tony Khan had his Revolution media call, I think, yesterday. WWE's launched a WCW Vault channel on YouTube, but there's some WWE LFG drama as well, and WWE continuing to take a shit on the head of Mickie James. We'll talk about that. We'll run through, a general recap of last night's SmackDown. We'll do a really quick rundown of Dynamite because all of that's pretty much obsolete with Revolution being tomorrow. And we'll predict the Revolution card. We'll also look ahead to this Monday's Madison Square Garden Raw that's going to be headlined by a big CM Punk and Seth Rollins steel cage match. So the next few days aren't going to be that bad. If you're a wrestling fan, should be a fun weekend. Hopefully you guys are having a good Saturday. Thank you so much for being here. I'll do some quick shout outs and whatnot, and then we will get into the wrestling news. Let me just get the chat pulled up over here so I can see everybody. Anybody who is here right now, if you could do me a favor, thumbs up button, smash that sucker. Most of you are subscribed, but if you're not, what the fuck are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Memberships are open, so are super chats. We will answer all of them today, as is the case with every one of our streams. Good to see our friends Harry Rice. We've got Red Raven Rucker, Zane G, Melissa, Tatanani, Mike Rouse, Jay Lambo, Mohammed, Colin Wright, Damian Drain, Ajax Johnson, my boy Amato. Good to see you in here. Great day at work. Cracking a cold one after running errands. Nice. Saturday afternoon cold ones. That's what it's all about. Hope Tito's good. He's right here messing with my wires as usual. And let's shoot the shit, as 90s HBK would say. Follow that. Barry NK. Look at all my friends in here. Barry's here as well. I didn't know New Jack was in WWE 2K25. I know, I don't play video games, but I wasn't aware he was in that. But I have seen a lot of the discourse online over the past couple days, and it seems like every single time one of these video games come out, it's nothing but criticism. The game sucks, it's glitchy, all that. I always just hear nothing but negativity. I don't know why people buy these games every year if they suck so bad. But that's cool about New Jack. I wonder how gnarly they let him get in that game. Good to see Ricky in here as well. Nick Musser. We got Kevin in the house. Rodrigo. Isaac is here. David Brown. JL. Sonic Plays. Titanium Titan. Luke McAllister dropping in a nice $10 drop there. Thanks for that, my friend. What's up, Greg? Never thought I'd see the day when my favorite wrestler would turn heel. My mind was racing and it seemed surreal. Definitely the biggest heel turn in my 26-year-old life. We talked a lot about that and the Cena heel turn, and that's about the age I mentioned. I said, 26 to 28-year-olds, I feel for them. Like, they're probably going through it right now, and I love that. It's good for you. I went through it. Fans my age went through it. And today's generation of fans really haven't experienced anything like that. I mean, the Hogan heel turn, many of you weren't even alive for that. So it's time for another major moment like that to happen to affect a whole new generation of fans. And that's what's happening with the Cena heel turn. And that's why it's so great. So I'm glad that you're struggling with that, Luke. Welcome to my world. Welcome to the rest of our worlds. And that's really cool to see that Cena heel turn was pulled off to perfection. Stephen Harris, we got Tony in here as well. Ryan Adams in the house, and Zach Palgett. Good to see everybody who is here. Like I said, thumbs up button, subscribe, all that crap. And Colin Wright's got 2. Looking forward to 2K25. Bull Nakano in there as well. That's cool. Well, she went into the Hall of Fame, right? So she should be in it. But New Jack is kind of a surprise. Like I said, 3 straight days of streaming coming to you starting today with this podcast tomorrow for AEW Revolution. Going to be a long one. We'll probably be up here for a solid 5 count 'em hours tomorrow as we watch the show. Then we stick around for a review. If any of you in the chat, moderators, people who are here frequently, want to help out tomorrow with the stream, DM me on Twitter and we'll talk about it. Basically, I only need one requirement. You have to order the pay-per-view tomorrow. Basically, I'm looking for someone to kind of jot down the results and send them to me. That way I've got them in front of me so I don't have to try to make notes during the show tomorrow. So if any of you are interested in doing that and plan on ordering the pay-per-view and watching it and want to help out with a little note-taking, shoot me a DM on Twitter, and whoever the first one to respond back is, I'll choose you. Just remember, you have to buy the pay-per-view because that's very crucial. We're going to be watching that tomorrow, sticking around for a review. And on Monday, like I said, Madison Square Garden, Monday Night Raw, right before the boys and girls head overseas for their big international tour. We're going to get Punk and Rollins inside of a steel cage. And that is where I believe we are going to see Roman Reigns, is Monday night. So we'll be here watching that to break it all down. Anyway, today we've got lots to get into. I think the top story, and maybe not the top story, but the top thing I want to talk about today is the newest inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, actually, I believe there's 2 new inductees, or technically 3. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It's been rumored that, because I don't think this has been officially announced by WWE, at least I haven't seen them officially announce it, but the rumor is that the Natural Disasters are going to be inducted into this year's Hall of Fame as a tag team. Now, that's great. Earthquake and Typhoon, fantastic. A lot of memories of them as a team. I would argue John Tenta could go in by himself before going in as a tag team, so it's not like I have anything against the Natural Disasters going in. But Demolition just signed their new Legends deal, and I know signing a Legends deal doesn't automatically mean they're going into the Hall of Fame, but motherfucker, come on here. You know, when you have a chance to get these guys in before they die, do it. You know, John Tenta has already passed away. I'm sure Cody probably had something to do with Uncle Fred getting in. Maybe Cody had a hand in this, like he had a hand in Luger's as well. But I'm kind of bummed that it's not going to be Demolition, and I never want to be that fan. I've lectured fans before about worrying about, well, what about so-and-so when somebody gets announced for the Hall of Fame and the only thing they can think about is who isn't in the Hall of Fame. I'm like, it's not about them right now. It's about this person. So I don't like to be that fan and go against, what I've preached before. But like, come on, man. Demolition is sitting right there and you're putting in the Natural Disasters. Okay, I got no problem with that. It's just like, do you guys really want to have more Macho Mans and Vaders? When you have a chance to put these people in when they are alive, do it. So no Demolition this year. Those guys are not on the verge of death. They're at a convention right now, I think in Atlanta somewhere. Axe and Smash are constantly on the road together. I follow Smash on Twitter, and it's really fun just to watch him post pictures and videos from these weekend conventions that they hit every single weekend, putting on their face paint, taking the pictures. So they're going to be around next year, I'm sure. They can just go in next year, I hope. But the fact that they didn't get in this year is a little bit bums me out a little bit. But congrats to the Natural Disasters. Very much a worthy tag team. It's just, come on, man, what about Demolition? But the one official announcement we got this week was a great one. It is going to be Lex Luger going into this year's 2025 Hall of Fame class. I'm happy for him. I really am. He's been living with Diamond Dallas Page for the past, year or so, working on getting himself in shape. He's been confined to a wheelchair. I believe he's even stood up out of that now. DDP is working wonders out of that mansion in Atlanta, that's for sure. And Luger has been making great progress. And I think WWE's had their eye on him For a while, they did the big documentary on him a couple of years ago that took a full year to get released after that. He's been spotted and interviewed for some WWE projects, so even though he had a big falling out with Vince in 95 when he jumped over to Nitro and, he wasn't picked up in the buyout or anything like that, it feels like those feelings are largely, it's water under the bridge. Same with Jeff Jarrett and, a lot of people who've had, kind of bad endings with WWE. And Lex was, somebody that was kind of blackballed there for a long time. And now all of these years later, it's nice to see that he's going to get his flowers, at least in a Hall of Fame capacity, because he absolutely is a Hall of Fame wrestler, even though he didn't win any championships in WWE. Came very close, to being the world champion as the born-again Hogan that Vince tried to create in 1993 that failed so miserably. And came close to being a tag champion there, too. Had a couple of IC title shots, but never won any gold in WWE. However, he's a Grand Slam champion in WCW. TV title, US title, tag title, world title. Some big moments in that company for Lex in the early 90s, winning the championship, and also in the late 90s, beating Hogan on Nitro. It was one of the best Nitro moments of that era when Lex won the title. But, due to him jumping over to Nitro the way he did, leaving WWE right after SummerSlam in 95, showing up unannounced on the first Nitro, that really ruined and burned that bridge with WWE severely. And Vince was pretty pissed off about it. But, all these years now, what's really to hold a grudge over? That was 30 years ago. 30 years ago was the debut of Nitro this year, which is just wild to me. And of course, in 2003, the tragic and gut-wrenching death of Miss Elizabeth, who was with Lex Luger at the time. They were dating. I think they were living together, and they were, both in a really bad place. Both had drug issues. And Lex Luger, even most recently did a great interview with Chris Van Vliet where, he talks about that. And he's talked about it before in shoot interviews. It's very difficult for him to talk about, and he feels very guilty and very remorseful, and he feels like he did have a hand in Liz's lifestyle and behavior. And I've always maintained that Liz was a grown woman, she made her own decisions, but that relationship with Lex definitely contributed to her drug overdose, and it's been a rough one. That's one of the most difficult deaths I think I've had to deal with in wrestling, just because of how much I loved Elizabeth. And I've always had mixed feelings about Lex Luger. I don't want to completely blame him for Liz's death because that's stupid, but at the same time, it's like, I just wish he could have been a different person, maybe a better person a few times there in his life. So I've always struggled with my feelings with about Lex Luger, because even back in when he was in WWE, before any tragedies happened, just when he was there, I was struggling to like him. I saw through it, the narcissist, character transitioning right into that real American type of character. I was like, this is BS. You lose Hogan, and then the first thing Vince does is try to create a new Hogan. This is the genius we're talking about here. When you already have a star sitting right there in Bret Hart, and you shove him aside to try to create a new Hulk Hogan, and you're surprised that shit fell on its face, and then you wind up going with Bret anyway. I think Lex Luger probably would have seen more success if he would just stayed the narcissist, And so I really didn't like Lex's use, how all those fans get mad about John Cena and Roman Reigns in the modern era. That's kind of how I felt about Lex Luger. I didn't feel like he deserved the push he was getting. Plus, it came out of nowhere, and it felt so obvious that Vince was just trying to replace Hulk with Lex. And that was frustrating as a fan, but none of that is Lex Luger's fault. That's Vince's stupidity. So I think, from a fan, more of a Mark perspective, I was just mad that my favorite was shoved aside in favor of someone that I felt was inferior. So when it comes to WWE and Lex Luger's personal life, I've always really wrestled with my feelings for him. However, his NWA and WCW days are completely different. Those memories are very fond. I remember first time I ever saw Lex was in a magazine. He had a beard. And I was like, Lex Luger, made me think of Lex Luthor. And I was really impressed with him. And, he won some championships in the NWA, had some classic matches there, and won some world titles. And he was, just a classic WCW star. Lex, Sting, the Steiners, those guys. Those memories of Lex Luger are always really positive, for me. But Lex's time in WWE is very negative in my mind. And then his personal life and being attached to the death of Miss Elizabeth has always made me just not sure how I felt about the guy. But, as the years have gone on, you can see Lex Luger, his remorse is genuine. His guilt is genuine. This guy has been through it. Not only does he have to deal with all that guilt and remorse, he's got his own health problems and his own issues. And he's, he was woke up on an airplane flight paralyzed, and he's been in a wheelchair. He struggles to get around. And he's remaining through all this positive. If you follow him on Twitter, every day's a great day, some picture of some scenery. Another day, Lord, thank you. He seems to really has turned himself around from that aspect. No more drugs and alcohol and shitty lifestyle. He's trying to make the most of the time he has left. And now him being with DDP, it just feels good. Just like Jake, just like Scott Hall, all the shitty things they did in their life. It was good to see them kind of clean it up at the end. Hall is no longer with us. Jake is still here, and Lex Luger, going through the improvements, making the improvements that he's made, getting himself healthier and working with DDP, plus his positivity, his accountability, all of that stuff I have liked seeing from Lex over the past few years. So I thought, if WWE ever decided to put him in the Hall of Fame, I'm not going to have a problem with it because he's a Hall of Fame wrestler. He has a Hall of Fame career, Hall of Fame resume. He absolutely is a Hall of Fame wrestler. This needed to happen. The only reason it wasn't happening prior to now was because of the bridge that was burned with WWE all those years ago. So WWE finally has made the decision to put Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame, and they did it in a wonderful, wholesome, heartwarming way with Cody Rhodes, who also lives in the Atlanta area, right? And he showed up at DDP's house while DDP and Lex are working out, and Cody shows up there and lets Lex Luger know that he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Lex stands up. I think they hug, and it was really sweet. And it makes me wonder, because Cody showed up there, when they filmed this, makes me wonder when they filmed it, because Lex Luger just recently did that interview with Chris Van Vliet, where he talked about the Hall of Fame. I'm wondering if that video of Cody Rhodes informing Lex of the Hall of Fame happened before the Chris Van Vliet interview and Lex had to keep his mouth shut. It might have, because Cody showed up at the house without a black eye, so it was definitely before last week. It was before the Elimination Chamber when that was filmed, and I think Lex was on CVV last week or the week before, something like that. So it might have been filmed before that, and Lex had to do that whole interview with Chris not being able to say anything. Maybe he told Chris, but he wasn't able to tell everybody. I don't know. That's just speculation. But it was a really nice video, and it put a smile on my face, and I'm very happy for Lex Luger. I just think that, a little redemption for him at the end. It's good for him, and it's good for the fans, to be able to see him go into the Hall of Fame, because regardless of what went on in his life, he still had a very memorable career that spanned a couple different eras in wrestling and, several different companies as well. So congratulations to Lex Luger, the latest inductee to the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. Let's talk about this Jade Cargill and Shayna Baszler situation. Now, we're going to talk about Jade in a minute, as she would be on SmackDown last night to destroy Naomi after that Naomi and Bianca segment. But before we get to that, apparently there's some heat with Jade Cargill and Shayna Baszler stemming from an incident that took place last year. And Fightful Select is where I went to try to read up on this. Here's what they had to say about this whole situation yesterday. Wrestling Observer reported a situation that took place with Baszler and Cargill last year that led to Cargill getting heat. Fightful had asked WWE talent about the incident shortly after Jade was written off TV, but those in the locker room had been quiet. Since then, it was claimed that Cargill took issue with something that had unfolded, and the word around the locker room was that Cargill had said something to the effect that Baszler needed to learn how to work, which was denied by people close to Jade. We're told it stemmed from the match in Scotland where Cargill tapped out. Remember, she was being, I think it was like a rear naked choke, and she started going like that. She started tapping. Like, is she tapping out? And it wasn't supposed to be the finish of the match. People close to Jade claimed she was more disappointed with herself with how things went down and was apologetic backstage. That's what you would expect. If somebody fucks up in a match, aren't you going to go back there to your peers and be like, holy shit, I am so sorry. So that checks out that's what the correct response for Jade would be for Jade. Goes on to say that upon returning to WWE, the situation that got much of the locker room talking was Cargill's promo video that said she was demanding respect and being surrounded by wolves in the shape of women all around her. The claim with those close to her was it was all in character and a reference to her being attacked by someone close to her within the context of on screen. At least one talent in the locker room mentioned that this was taken personally by a number of talent as they kept the issue between she and Baszler quiet. that makes no sense. That all of a sudden the talent is worried about a WWE produced promo. The way that thing is micromanaged, is Jade Cargill going to say anything in a taped vignette that isn't planned or scripted there? So I don't see why anyone would be mad about that unless you're just looking for something to be pissed about. Cargill's absence was also the subject of heat in the locker room. Talent had heard that Cargill asked for the holiday tour off, but was told that the tour was mandatory. Following that, she sustained an injury that several members of the roster doubted the validity of, which is why reports have emerged elsewhere that she wasn't injured. However, WWE higher-ups spoke to Fightful and said that she was injured and was willing to come back much earlier than she did. However, WWE wanted to make sure she was cleared by their team, and she was able to get in additional reps at the PC. Sources close to her claim that she did not ask off for the holidays, contrary to the word in the locker room. So it sounds like maybe there's some heat on Jade Cargill, just in general coming into the locker room. And then if she makes a couple of mistakes and then also runs her mouth, that's pretty typical stuff. That's going to be standard procedure in any locker room, in any company, anywhere. If you're coming in as a newcomer and you walk in there like you shit don't stink, to a whole bunch of women that have been there, putting the work in, busting their asses for, several years, they're not going to like you. So we don't know how much of this is true or not. One thing I will say is I don't doubt Jade's injury, because too many people would have to be worked for that to not be true. I mean, the medical team and, the talent and all that stuff. So I don't think that Jade was faking an injury. That makes no sense. Jade Cargill is in the big time in WWE, and you're not going to sign with the company, and the first thing you do is fake an injury to get time off for the holidays. I don't know Jade Cargill at all personally. As a matter of fact, she blocked me on Twitter, which sucks. But I don't believe that that's something that she would do. That seems a little bit far-fetched. But in terms of having heat with Baszler, I don't know. I mean, when she tapped out and she screwed up and then she came backstage and apologized, I don't know. And if somebody is taking issue with her vignette or something, that's their problem. I'm not really sure what's going on. But, I can understand the feeling in any locker room, men's or women's locker room, about somebody coming in, and if they have any sort of attitude to them or if they rub people the wrong way, sometimes that can wind up getting you heat. That's just like it in any business. What do you guys do for a living? What are your jobs? If you've been there for any length of time and then somebody comes in brand new and starts stepping on you, you're not going to like that either, so those people are going to get heat. I'm not going to let some server come into my restaurant and start acting like they know what's what, and start bossing other people around. No, bitch, you just got here. You got to learn our way. So that's just human nature in any sort of job or business, whatever you're doing. So hopefully nothing is these issues aren't too far gone that they can't be dealt with. Shayna Baszler, she's got a good spot in the company, but I don't really know what she's going to do in terms of winning world championships again. Probably not. So if her and Cargill have issues with each other, it's probably in their best interest, both of them, to work it out. That's what I would say. So a little interesting drama backstage in WWE and a lot of conflicting reports. And it seems like a lot of people really want the story to be that Jade Cargill is lazy and an asshole and all that. And I'm not really convinced that's the case based on what we've read so far. Also, backstage in WWE, there were some discussions this week, mostly brought up by Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, about the whole situation with Cody Rhodes, John Cena, and The Rock. Of course, we saw The Rock join up with John Cena 1 week ago today when John Cena turned heel, biggest heel turn in the business in the last 30 years, and teamed up with The Rock, and he's going to be facing Cody Rhodes now heading into WrestleMania. But there was also some talk this week about how this came to be, and one plan that was pitched for Cody to actually turn heel. I think it was Meltzer that mentioned this week, that Cody was pitched to be the one to turn heel, but he turned it down, shot it down, and then they opted to go with John Cena. Fightful Select had this to say about it. Dave Meltzer reported that at one point Cody was pitched for the heel turn. There were a number of other elements regarding a timeline when the turn was expected and the like that we can't confirm. However, Fightful had heard earlier this week that Cody was pitched and passed on a heel turn. So I didn't think it was really time. We talked about this, Cody turning heel. I'm like, he will turn heel. He'll be great. He'll probably dye his hair black. He'll be a fantastic heel when it comes time to do that. But it's just too early. I think he's just too much on top right now. He's too much of a babyface. He moves too much merchandise. And I think it's like a year away, or maybe at the end of this year, maybe when Cena leaves, then Cody can go heel, something like that is always what I felt like would be best. I felt like this year's WrestleMania would have been too soon. So Fightful goes on to say that, to be clear, the only element of the report we can confirm is the pitched and rejected heel turn. After that, we're told Cena was pitched to and agreed to the heel turn, and The Rock was all in on making the story happen. There are a lot of dramatic reactions to this online, but we're told this was just the common course of making pitches for something big to happen heading into WrestleMania and maximizing the buzz. When gauging reactions this week, there were many close to Cody who hadn't even heard about this. So it sounds like that pitch for Cody to turn heel might have just been a very general thing. What are we going to do next year at WrestleMania? What if we turn you heel? And Cody's like, hell no, I'm not ready to do that yet. Now, I think there's a difference between being a John Cena or Bianca Belair and never wanting to turn heel and waiting to turn heel until the right moment. I don't think Cody is going to fall into this 14-year-long babyface run like John Cena did, or 20-year, but 14 of him just winning constantly, it felt like. So, shit, more than that, right? Yeah, probably more than that. So Cody, eventually turning heel is something that we're going to get, and I'm glad that it didn't happen this year because I think the Cena heel turn is interesting. I can't wait to see how it all shakes out, and I can't wait to see what kind of fun they're going to have in the short amount of time that it sounds like they're going to have to do this if you want to have time for a redemption arc at the end, which is what most people are expecting. I was assuming if John Cena turned heel, then he's retiring heel. But a lot of fans believe that he's going to be back a babyface again before he finally heads off into the sunset for good. So, in terms of Cody going heel, like I said, I didn't think it was really time for that yet. And then in another interesting tweet, this was a tweet from Wrestle Purists that was quoting, I believe, Dave. And I quote, it says, The plan was for Cena's heel turn alongside The Rock to be saved for the WrestleMania main event. However, the decision was made on the day of Elimination Chamber to do it there instead. That's according to Dave, and that's what Wrestle Purist tweeted out. Brian Gewirtz then quote tweeted that Wrestle Purist tweet and said, 0 for 2. So according to Gewirtz, sounds like that story of Cody being pitched to turn heel first and the story about the heel turn happening at WrestleMania. Neither of those stories are true, according to Brian Gewirtz. But I don't really give a shit if they're true or not. I'm happy with the road that we're on. Cody versus Cena. Cena's a heel. Can't wait to see how it all shakes out. We have some more AEW departures heading our way soon. It sounds like Abaddon, the brother of Saraya, Zach Knight, and Nick Camarado, their contracts will not be picked up and they will be gone from the company. Tony Khan also had his Revolution media call yesterday. Nothing really major coming out of that other than he did say that he's kind of changed his policy or philosophy on releases and handling everything as a case-by-case basis. And that's exactly what it always should have been. Tony Khan, I think in the past was like, no, these people are going to honor their contracts. And I was the one that said, for years, I said, not all of these cases are the same. Same thing in WWE. Not every single release request will be the same. So you can't really have a blanket policy. That's not fair. Some people might need it or deserve it. Some people don't. It just depends on the situation. And I think that's how releases should be handled. It's too hard to have like a big policy because there's going to be extenuating circumstances. You just never know. So with Tony Khan, I'm glad that he's taking this stance now. I'm glad that when a situation like this comes up, he'll evaluate it and make the decision that he feels is right. And that's good. That should lead to more releases and less people being held hostage. Guantanamo Bay and POWCW and let our people go. All companies have been accused of this, and WWE too, holding on to Luke Harper, FTR, Ali, Mustafa Ali, all these people that they've just denied releases to for no reason. There's no reason for them to deny the release. Just let them go. So WCW, WWE, AEW, nobody is more guilty of it than the other. So if you think that Tony Khan is some petty fucking psycho, you're just not old enough to remember anything. That's all that means. So I'm glad that Tony Khan has kind of come to his senses there, because that's fucking stupid just to say, no, you're going to honor your contracts no matter what. You never know what kind of situations are going to present themselves to you. So you should let people go when it's appropriate. Glad to hear that Tony Khan is looking to start doing that. Other than that, nothing really noteworthy at all coming out of that media call, attendance stuff, random shit like that. Ray Phoenix is believed to be WWE bound if he is not there already. Creative pitches, merch stuff, all currently being worked out in WWE. It'll be interesting to see when they debut him. I think at this point, he should be a night after WrestleMania type of debut. I wouldn't really bring him back at WrestleMania or debut him at WrestleMania or anything like that. You could do it before if you want, but I think they need to have a plan. I think they need to know what they want to do with him, and don't just immediately stick him in the middle of whatever Penta is doing. And maybe even put him on SmackDown until the brothers, kind of come together at some point. I don't know. But Ray Phoenix, WWE bound, WWE debut is imminent for sure. This could be good news for watch-alongs on Sundays. WWE has now launched a WCW Vault YouTube channel. Handful of shows already up there. It looks like they're putting matches, TV shows, and pay-per-views up in their entirety. So there's a few matches, a few episodes of Thunder, and a handful of pay-per-views all up there in their entirety. So if one of them pops up that we want to watch, we won't even use Peacock. We'll just be watching them on YouTube. We'll do the same thing for the WWE Vault. And apparently an ECW Vault is probably in the works as well. So any shows that we want to do, if they're available on any of these Vault channels, we will just watch them on YouTube on Sunday nights. So keep that in mind. If you haven't checked out the WCW Vault channel, go check it out. Already some good shit on there. It's all stuff I already have in my own collection, but it's there. So give it a look. That's awesome. Really, really awesome that that stuff is becoming available on YouTube. I want to mention this story too, because it pisses me off. So that WWE LFG show, I don't watch it. I don't care about it. I don't like shows like that. And I'm the weird one. You guys, I've made a couple of tweets about this, like, oh, that stupid fucking show. And a few of you have responded saying, no, it's actually a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. I got into it or whatever. So I've always just had like a pet peeve, like an issue with like reality shows or any type of show where you do something and then you're judged by a panel of dickheads. I have never seen one single episode ever of American Idol. Ever. I've never seen a Big Brother or a Survivor or a Masked Wedding Singer or whatever the fuck that show is. You've Got Talent, America's Funniest Ass Wads, whatever. All these different shows, I don't watch any of them. The very first season of Tough Enough, I did watch, and I liked it okay, but I never watched any other Tough Enoughs. Didn't watch any of that crap at all. Never watched Total Divas. I despise with a passion like reality style television. I just don't like it in any form. So it's not really WWE. It's the cooking shows too. You cook a delicious meal and some asshole's going to tell you it tastes like shit. Fuck you. I'm not watching that. I don't like it. I just don't like it. It's just a personal thing with me. So the LFG show did not interest me at all. Bully Ray is, I think, one of the biggest douchebags in the wrestling community, pontificating blowhard that he is, just never shuts up, acting like what he does is some brain surgery or rocket science or something. Shut the fuck up. You're a wrestler. It ain't that deep, Bully Ray, with your handshakes and all of that. So those type of things just irk me. So I don't like these type of shows, but apparently it's not a bad show and it's already been renewed for a second season, which did they just mass release all of the episodes at once? How long are these seasons? I feel like it just started and we're already talking about it being renewed for a second season. And there are some changes. This is according to Fightful Select. It was revealed that upcoming WWE Hall of Famer Michelle McCool will replace Mickie James in the series, leading to many questions as to why that is happening. Sources close to A&E production claimed to Fightful that The Undertaker was instrumental on getting his wife on the show. The claim from the The claim from those close to the series say that Undertaker was open to continuing the show if Michelle McCool was involved, so she was brought in to replace Mickie James. It is important to note that we have not heard anything claiming Undertaker specifically wanted Mickie James off the show or wanted Michelle McCool to actively replace Mickie, just that he wanted Michelle involved. So once again, Mickie James gets treated like absolute shit by this company. When she was there, this beautiful woman was being called a pig, fat, overweight, all that stuff. Same shit with the Lillian Garcia with the horse face and stuff. Mickie James, who's not fat in any way, who's absolutely gorgeous, and they made fun of her for looking like a pig. Then they bring her back. They fire her. They mail her shit to her in a garbage bag, duct taped all together, like it was bought in a garage sale in Compton. And now she's on this LFG show, and they're just going to boot her off because Undertaker wants his fucking wife on there. Now you've got Michelle McCool, who I don't have anything against personally or anything like that, but I would probably bet she is the least qualified wrestler to ever go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, she's up there. I mean, if you want to start listing the wrestlers with the least impressive resumes, a couple of Divas championships in the worst era of women's wrestling in history, to me, is not much of an accomplishment. And when you got her go into the Hall of Fame, that's fine. I'll let that go. No big deal. She's married to Undertaker. Of course, she's going to get in. But now that she's going to be the one judging these prospects instead of Mickie James, don't you want the judges to, have the most experience possible? Like Mickie James, she's a coach. Michelle McCool's not a wrestling coach. Mickie James is. Mickie James has so much more experience and knowledge and understanding of the business than Michelle McCool. And it's just one more reason why I'll never watch this show. I would not be able to be a young prospect and have to listen to that woman tell me when I'm doing right and wrong. I'm like, I'm better than you were. So I think I would probably run my mouth, get kicked off, and then Bully Ray would call me disrespectful or something like that. It's not a big deal. Who cares? It's LFG. Who cares about the show? Who cares who's on the panel or what? But when you look at Mickie James and see how many times she's just been dumped on by this company, it's so frustrating. So I would like to take this opportunity to say, Mickie James, we love you. Here at Good Micro Commentaries, we are massive fans of you. And Mickie James is one of the best women's wrestlers to ever come down the pike. She's offered so much to the business, and she's been through so many different eras. She's been around for a long time now. And she is a veteran who can still get in there and mix it up when she wants to. She's held championships across multiple promotions, TNA and WWE and NWA. And where else has she been? She's done a lot, and she deserves more respect than she's getting, in my mind. So, Mickie James, we love you. Hopefully it's no skin off her back. Hopefully she doesn't give a shit at all. Yeah, I'm not on LFG anymore. Who cares? So hopefully she doesn't even care. But that story is just like, really? So we don't know. I mean, it's just, why? Who cares why? Let's move on. Monday Night Raw this past week, we watched it together. Io Sky with the big upset win, winning the championship from Rhea Ripley and turning that whole WrestleMania situation on its ear. A lot of fans still think it's going to be that triple threat. We'll see if any of that starts shaking out this Monday on Raw, that will be headlined in the Garden by CM Punk and Seth Rollins in a steel cage match. And I 100% believe this is where we will see Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns will close out the show. I don't even know if we're going to get a winner in Punk and Rollins. I don't know if Rollins will get his win back here against Punk, and then Roman will come in and crash the party, or if Roman will come in and just fuck them both up, and we won't even get a winner, and it'll just be Roman standing over their two broken bodies, and that will lead us right into WrestleMania for that triple threat match we're expecting to get between those three guys. And the following week, 1 week from this Monday, is St. Patrick's Day, and that is the first show that John Cena is advertised for. I don't think we're going to get him next Friday on SmackDown. I think the first time we see Cena will be on Monday, the 17th, and that's going to be an overseas show, which means it's going to be taped, which means we're probably going to see videos and screenshots and pictures of Cena and his new look, if he's going to have a new look, prior to the show coming out. So that kind of sucks. No, it's still going to air at the normal time it does here in the States, I assume, that Monday Night Raw. So it's probably going to be taped on that one. And that's going to be the first time we see Cena, unless he does show up on SmackDown, which I hope he does. Although SmackDown next week, too, might be overseas. I don't know. But kind of sucks that Cena went heel and then we're not going to see him for like 3 weeks. But I guess that's just the way the schedule shook out. So since we're not going to get Cena and The Rock on Monday, we're probably going to get Roman Reigns instead so he can start building his issue with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Last night's SmackDown was not a bad show, although the 3-hour SmackDowns can get a little tedious. I'm glad that I work on Fridays most weeks, so I just come home and watch the Cliff's Notes version. It takes me about 45 minutes to watch SmackDown instead of 3 hours. But the show wasn't bad. We had some interesting stuff take place and 2 big segments that I really liked. Before the show got going, Drew McIntyre attacked Damian Priest backstage. Priest would come back and get him some of Drew later on. And the show opened with Randy Orton. So Randy Orton made his return at the Elimination Chamber. And he talked a little bit about John Cena and his old friend John Cena and what he's been doing, and, gave his 2 cents on the John Cena heel turn, and then talked about Kevin Owens and how he always respected Kevin Owens as a wrestler, but he doesn't respect him as a person. And he said that he's starting to hear the voices again. The voices are back, and they're talking to him, and they are telling him to punt Kevin Owens. So it sounds like whenever we get this match announced for WrestleMania, Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton, the punt is going to be the big story there. I was thinking that, if it was going to be Sammy and Owens, oh man, do a Hell in the Cell match or something with those guys. But, Owens has already been in a lot of these type of matches, the ladder match and all these, and an unsanctioned match and all these just crazy brutal matches that he's had. If they're going to make the whole Randy Orton and Owens situation about the punt, then you don't really need a stip, because you can play up the whole match, around the punt kick that we are waiting to see, where Orton got knocked out for a couple of months by Kevin Owens executing an illegal move on him. So he's going to do the same to Kevin Owens. So I think we'll get that match announced at some point, and we might not even need a stipulation attached to that at all. And you have to wonder what Sami Zayn is going to do now. I thought maybe he could face Karrion Kross, but that's feeling unlikely. Sounds like Sami Zayn might not even be booked for WrestleMania. He might show up in this match. So that might all be all Sami is booked for Mania. They're going to keep him off TV selling the beatdown from the unsanctioned match, and then he turns up at WrestleMania. I don't know, helps Randy Orton win, or maybe he helps Kevin Owens beat Randy Orton, and it's a big swerve, and Kevin and Sami are now together as a heel team. Maybe something like that. And then Sami can give whatever explanation he wants for why he did that. The one thing with Sami and Owens is their history goes back so far, and so far beyond what the wrestling fans understand. Edge and Christian are like that too, to where you don't have to worry too much about these 2 guys doing something that doesn't make sense, because their relationship is deeper than anything the fans will ever understand. So if it doesn't make sense when Kevin Owens would turn heel, or Sami would turn heel and join Kevin Owens after what he did, I'm like, it's not kind of supposed to make sense. That's the dynamic of their relationship. Saying there's so much history there, and loyalty and love, and the fine line of love and hate between those 2 guys that we've lost count of how many times they've feuded and gotten back together now. So that's how volatile the relationship is. So if Sami were to show up at WrestleMania, turn heel, I wouldn't say it wouldn't make sense. I would say, yeah, that sounds right along the line of what we've come to expect from Owens and Sami. It's right up their alley. Always keeping us on our toes. So maybe they're doing something like that. Or like I said, maybe Sami gets stuck in there and it's a triple threat or something. And I mentioned that, I think, last Monday, that maybe the plan was for both nights of WrestleMania to have like a big epic triple threat. And maybe on night 2, it's Punk, Rollins, Roman. And on night 1, it's Kevin, Sami, Orton. That could still happen. We'll see. But Randy Orton is back, and he's vowing to punt Kevin Owens, and I'm sure that punt will be at least attempted at WrestleMania. Tiffany Stratton defeated Piper Niven last night. Prettiest moonsault for the win. After the match, Charlotte beat up Tiffany. I think now for the 3rd straight week in a row, right? It's been Charlotte standing over Tiffany. I think it's time to change that up. Pretty Deadly are the new number 1 contenders for the tag team titles. They defeated Motor City Machine Guns and Los Garza in a three-way match last night, and they will be getting a title shot soon. And then it was the tremendous Bianca Belair and Naomi segment. I'm very proud of them because these segments are not easy. And when you're dealing with D-tier acting, when you're talking, 50 levels below what you see on Hallmark Channel, these are the types of acting chops wrestlers generally have for 98% of the wrestlers in history. Some people like CM Punk, and The Rock and Cena and others, really know what they're doing out there, but the majority of wrestlers can't act for shit. And so now you're asking these two women to go out there and do a segment like this, and I feel like this was really well done, obviously well rehearsed, well planned, talked about what they wanted to discuss here, and they both did tremendous. Bianca came out first to the ring. She's already pissed because she's the number one contender, or she's getting the championship match at WrestleMania. That's what she needs to be focusing on. But instead, she's got to focus on whatever went on between Jade and Naomi at the Elimination Chamber. And Bianca was tremendous in that, remember? At the Chamber, when Jade hit the ring and attacked Naomi, Bianca was going ape shit in that pod, screaming and yelling, and she played that off very, very well. So she calls out Naomi. Naomi comes down and kind of talks about how Jade was holding Bianca down. It's supposed to be about me and you, and so she's kind of, jealous about Jade, and Bianca just wants to know. Bianca just wants the answer, did you do it? And then Naomi screams, yes, I did it, and she admits it, and Bianca is just overwhelmed with emotion. There are like real tears from both women here, and Bianca's doing, granted, this is wrestling, it's WWE acting, so if anybody's saying, oh, this is cinema, these women deserve an Emmy or an Oscar, no, they don't. Let's not get stupid. This is great acting in the WWE bubble. In the bubble of, of movies and TV, it's shit acting. But for WWE, it's very good. So the fact that this didn't suck was what made me the most happy. And the fact that Bianca, you really felt that she was genuinely pissed, especially when she was like, don't touch me. That was so good. And Bianca she doesn't even know what to think. She's doing a very good job of selling these emotions on her face. She can't even process this. She just has to get the hell out of the ring. She walks away and she's leaving in just disbelief. And then my favorite part was as she's walking away, you see Jade Cargill showing up on the Tron in the SUV. She gets out of the car. She power walks right through Gorilla, comes out, her music plays. She comes out to the stage, and that little look, Bianca is standing on the side, just devastated, tears strolling down her face as Jade is coming out, and the two of them just kind of look at each other, and Bianca was just like, go do it, go kick her ass. She just was like, I don't know what to even say, go do what you got to do. And that little look between them was so well done. That camera shot was so perfect. And then Jade just beelines to the ring and absolutely destroys Naomi. So that whole piece of business there was good. Props to WWE, props to Bianca and Naomi for going out there and making a segment that I would assume would not come off well. And they did it really well. I thought it was really, really, really well done. So whenever you're trying to show emotion, whenever you need to cry in a promo, or you need to really sell something as a big deal, a lot of times the actors or the wrestlers just don't have the acting chops in them to do that. And to be asked to go out there and do what they were asked and to do it well, awesome. So I don't know what that means for Naomi and Jade Cargill. I don't know if that's a WrestleMania match or not. A lot of fans are assuming it's going to be Naomi and Jade Cargill one-on-one. I don't know where you fit that match into WrestleMania. I'm hoping that is going to be the match, but you also have to wonder, how Bianca's situation plays into that, if it plays into that at all. If Naomi does face Jade, is that going to be on a separate night from Bianca's match? Are these two issues going to overlap at all? Is anybody going to get involved in Bianca's title match? Is there an extra swerve here we're not seeing? Is there another heel turn coming? Is Bianca going to turn and join up with Naomi? What's going to happen there? I think we can rule out a Jade turn at this point because Jade wants the head of Naomi on a stick. But maybe there's one more swerve to be had, and I guess that we should pencil this match in for WrestleMania. But I guess I'm proven wrong if that happens, because I did not believe there would be another women's match one-on-one that wouldn't involve a championship. And we might get we might get Naomi and Jade. We might also get Bayley and Roxanne. I'd be amazed if we got that match one-on-one at WrestleMania. That just seems unlikely to me, but we might, or we get it at NXT TakeOver. But Jade and Bianca and Naomi, great stuff last night. Thoroughly enjoyed that segment. We had Braun Strowman, I believe, beating Solo Sikoa by DQ. Tama Tonga ran in to interrupt a 3 count for the finish there. Then Jacob Fatu came out, started brawling with Braun Strowman, and they went out into the crowd, and Strowman wound up slamming Jacob through a table, or a couple of tables, I think. And then Jacob, just within a matter of seconds, is up on his feet already. So Braun Strowman, I liked what he's doing with Jacob, and I liked what he was doing with Bronson Reed. I think Strowman being in this role to be a big man to help build up and add credibility to other big men is an excellent role for him to be in. And, you know, they protected him here. Strowman didn't beat Solo, and he still looked strong beating up Jacob, but the way Jacob got up out of that table bump was incredible. And I'm not so sure now about what Solo Sikoa is going to do at WrestleMania. I was assuming it was going to be Solo and Jacob. It probably still will. But man, if fans stop giving a fuck about Solo, does anybody care about Solo Sikoa at all? I don't. You know, I was mildly into him during the Bloodline stuff, you know, but once Jacob came around, he instantly overshadowed Solo Sikoa, and fans just do not care. So, I mean, that whole match with him and Strowman last night was relatively quiet in the audience. So, Solo Sikoa and Jacob, I'm hoping, is the match we get at WrestleMania, and Jacob just slaughters him. But if they think that Solo isn't even worthy enough for a WrestleMania match, which that is possible based on the fan reaction, nobody cares, they might not even do Jacob and Solo. They might put Jacob in a match with LA Knight for the U.S. title, now that LA Knight won the title back, which we'll talk about here in a minute. We'll have to see. Let me offer some, well, what's the correct word here? Let me also offer some praise to Chelsea Green, who had Gear of the Week last night on SmackDown, dressed in her Cactus Jack gear, red flannel, wanted dead or alive shirt. Instead of cactus on the tights, it says Chelsea. I never thought that gear could look sexy. My God, it's the best the best Foley gear has ever looked on any human. My God, she was rocking that to perfection. And had a pretty fun street fight with Michin, even though let me see, I think I had it written down. This is the 180th match between these two on SmackDown in the last 2 months. Even though we've seen this 180 times, I love these two together. Their whole issue has been fun. I really like Michin. She's been a lot of fun lately, and this was a fun street fight. Michin goes to basically top rope senton bomb Chelsea through a table, and she does, when a hooded figure shows up at ringside and pulls Chelsea Green out of the ring. Takes off the hood to reveal that it's Melba Toast, our old friend Melba Toast. I'm kidding. It's Alba Fire. Hate that name. I hate Alba Fire as much as I hate Braun Breaker. The names are just so bad, and they're on really, really talented wrestlers, and that's what bugs me the most. So Alba Fire is now back after Isla Dawn was recently released in a release that upset me. I really liked Isla Dawn a lot. And so now Alba Fire is left by herself. We were wondering what they were going to do with her. I guess we have found out. She's now back on TV. She pulls out Green to save her from Michin, and then executes a destroyer to Michin on the chairs, steel chairs that are laying in the ring, allowing Chelsea to come in and get the pin and win the match and retain the United States Championship. I think the title was on the line, right? I don't remember. But either way, Chelsea won. And now Chelsea already has Piper Niven with her, so I'm not sure if Chelsea is going to form a little crew here. I feel like at some point, Piper's going to turn on Chelsea. So maybe Chelsea's finding that replacement already, or Chelsea is building a little mini faction here to help shield her championship. And now Alba Fire is going to be with them, I guess. Or unless Alba has got some other issue, maybe it wasn't Chelsea, maybe it was Michin she has an issue with. Not sure. We'll find out, but good to see Alba Fire back on TV either way, and she helped Chelsea pick up the win last night. I really enjoyed Cody Rhodes' promo last night as well. This was his first time speaking since the big heel turn last Saturday night. And what I liked about this is he kept it pretty short and sweet. When he came out, he had a big black eye, and if you looked in his ear, he had something in there, like an earplug or something. Maybe it was for his pyro or whatever, and we did hear that Cody may have suffered an injury at Elimination Chamber with a busted eardrum, and we know who did it. It was Travis Scott, who I am just baffled why this dude is even in there. He's in the ring. Like 30 years from now, future wrestling fans are going to be watching footage of John Cena's heel turn and are going to go, who the shit is that guy? So him already being in there was weird enough. And then I think he just got a little bit too excited and he smacked Cody. You can watch the replay. He smacked Cody, just full-blown punches Cody, whose head is laying on the mat, and just bam, right on the side of his ear. And you could see Cody like immediately flinch. He hit him with a live round. And I think that was Travis Scott just getting too caught up in the moment, not knowing what the hell he's doing. I mean, Cody might have even backstage say, hey, yeah, hit me. Later on when it happens, hit me. You know, maybe Travis just got a little bit too excited and can't separate, work from performance or performance from reality, and nailed Cody pretty hard. It's gotten a lot of people pretty upset, including Bully Ray, who took it about 10 steps too far and says, oh, Travis Scott needs to have his jaw shattered and wired shut, and if nobody else will do it, I'll do it. Shut the fuck up, Bully Ray. Jesus, are you just a dick all the time? Is that all you do? Is just walk around being a dick? So I did not like that happened to Cody. I think that's bullshit that you let this rapper in the ring and injure your world champion, potentially, jeopardizing your WrestleMania main event. A guy that's got no business being in there to begin with is going to cost you one of your biggest matches in history. Is that a risk you are willing to take, WWE, by having this guy in there? I don't think there's any heat on him, but I mean, there might be a little heat on him internally, but in terms of like from Cody or whatnot, it's not like he's a wrestler. I think there'd be more heat on him if he was a wrestler, and he did that. At least Travis Scott has the excuse of not knowing what the hell he was doing. But then you would argue, what the hell is he doing in the ring in one of the biggest segments in history if he doesn't know what he's doing? And looking back, he just didn't need to be there. So Cody got injured from Travis Scott. Now, what I hope winds up happening here is that Travis Scott just gets himself a vicious receipt at WrestleMania. I would tie him into this now. He was the one that hurt Cody, so I'm hoping during the match, Travis Scott jumps in there and Cody hits him with a crossroads or something, hits him in the face with a chair or whatever, and Travis Scott gets his receipt, and they play it up for the audience, and the audience gets to see that moment. So what I'm hoping they do is take an unfortunate incident that happened with Cody getting legitimately hurt by a potato from Travis Scott, and they have something big happen at WrestleMania where Travis goes through a table or he just gets completely fucking annihilated to the delight of the Vegas audience. That will be fun. And Cody kept things pretty short and pretty sweet. Talked about some of the history between him and John Cena and how John Cena has told him that belt gets heavier. And he says, I feel like I'm carrying nothing. Very intense, very direct, very straight to the point. And most of all, very believable, especially the end. You want some, come get some. He was screaming into the mic, and it made me excited to see what these promos are going to be like during the build to Cody and Cena, because one of my issues with the match previously before Cena turned heel, it would just be too happy, too much love, too much respect. John Cena, we know what he can do on the microphone. We have seen him completely own some of the best in the business on the mic, including The Rock. And John Cena doesn't have to take a backseat to anyone when it comes to trading jabs on the microphone. So when they start getting cooking in their build, that's going to be some fun television. I cannot wait to see how Cody handles himself against a fired up John Cena. When John Cena is just really, really rolling. I'm curious how Cody can respond to that, because Cody's good on the mic. Cody can handle himself, but this is going to be a tall order for him. So I'm ready to see how all that goes. It's a shame it's still going to take a couple of more weeks before we finally get these guys in the ring together. I thought it was gonna happen a few times. Maybe it only happens once between now and WrestleMania. But at some point on TV, Raw or SmackDown, those two guys will be face to face. That's gonna be some fun stuff. Really good promo from Cody Rhodes last night. Drew McIntyre defeated Jimmy Uso one-on-one after the match. As he is leaving, he is attacked from behind by Damian Priest. And in the main event, LA Knight regained the United States Championship, defeating Shinsuke Nakamura. I question why Nakamura won the title to begin with, probably because of that Noah stuff. But Nakamura, with a very short run there with the U.S. title, passing it back here to LA Knight in the main event. Nakamura went for the mist and hit Charles Robinson instead. So Charles Robinson has had a rough week, man, and gets blasted in the face with the red mist. LA Knight winds up hitting the BFT on the chair on Nakamura, and a new referee runs down to make the 3 count, and LA Knight is once again the U.S. champion. Now, I'm curious if, because of the mist and the new referee, if this is going to give them an excuse to continue this issue one more week, or if Nakamura gets a rematch or something out of this. Because I was kind of thinking that maybe LA Knight would win back the title at WrestleMania. Well, now he's won back the title, so does he defend it at WrestleMania now? Like, what happens there? That's why I think maybe Jacob Fatu, instead of doing Jacob and Solo, Jacob and LA Knight might be better. Maybe WWE realizes, man, we can't keep this Samoan werewolf caged for too long. We can't have him treading water for too long. I think the match with Solo needs to happen for Bloodline storyline purposes, but I think the more interesting match is to put some gold on Jacob Fatu and have him take down LA Knight at WrestleMania. So I might rather see that match. But first, at some point, Jacob has got to destroy Solo. So we'll see what order they do these. Maybe Jacob and Solo. Man, I hate to book multi-man matches because we might get one for the IC, but maybe they do the same thing for the US and, it's Jacob and Solo and somebody else against LA Knight. But I think the match needs to be either Jacob and Solo or Jacob and Knight. One of those two is what I would prefer to see. If it's Jacob and Solo, then I don't know what LA Knight does at WrestleMania or who he defends against. You know what I mean? Anyway, before we get into some AEW stuff, let's see what the chat has to say. By the way, if anybody hasn't smashed that thumbs up button yet, I would appreciate it. Let's cruise back here to the chat. I'll knock out some of these super chats. Ryan Adams, thank you so much, my friend, for the $5. The main thing about 2K25 that caused anger was the DLC announcement that 3 NBA players will be in it, but New Jack, Victoria, and Sid are all in. Okay. Kind of understand that. What's up, Spartan Sprinkles? Good to see you in here. And thanks for the $2. So Charlotte stole Carmella's face and... Jesus Christ. Yeah, kind of. J Boba 28, thanks for the $5. Can't wait for Cena's heel promo with a tan, buzz cut, and Oh, wow, you think he's going to come out to Hendrix? Do you think there'll be another member joining The Rock and Cena? Maybe. I think that's a possibility. I think if you added a Randy Orton or a Drew McIntyre or something to the group, might be good. But I'm fine with just going off The Rock and Cena's dynamic. Maybe they want a full-time person in that faction to represent them when Rock and Cena aren't on TV. But other than that, it just depends on what their creative plan for this is. If it's just all going to be confined within this year, then you don't need to get too crazy. But if there's no end game yet, and this is something that they think could potentially last a couple of years, then do whatever you want. But Cena apparently is retiring at the end of the year. So I feel like they got 10 months to have some fun here, and that's about it. Shell Shock 29, appreciate that 10 from you. What's up, Greg? I was at my first SmackDown last night, and it was awesome. My first Raw was 15 years ago. Being there in person feels so much different than watching it on TV. Also, Cody's promo was awesome. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. Being there in person is definitely different, and it's a different experience, especially nowadays when things are so hot. Being in the middle of a hot crowd. I was like that years ago, back in the day in the Attitude Era. I was in the middle of a lot of those sellouts with all of those signs. There was nothing quite like the atmosphere of those shows, and I was at a bunch of them. So I totally understand. 2 more from Spartan Sprinkles. You should give America's Funniest Asswads a chance. Yeah, I'll try. I'll look it up tonight, maybe binge watch a few episodes. Let me see who else we got here. Looks like Ryan is back with 5 more. Thoughts on WWE doing a takeover during Memorial Weekend? We got Saturday night's main event, NXT Battleground, Raw, and NXT. That's Memorial Weekend. That's a lot going on. Well, Memorial Day weekend's a holiday weekend. It kicks off the summer. I think that's an excellent time to do a big wrestling weekend. But then again, a lot of people are out barbecuing, camping, going to the beach, that type of thing as well. So my thoughts on it is I'm sure they will be successful shows. Just scrolling through a few more of these comments here. See if there's anything I need to mention. All right, we're good. We're going to keep on moving here with my notes, and I want to talk a little bit about Dynamite. We're not going to talk a lot about Dynamite this past Wednesday because Revolution is tomorrow, so we got to predict this thing in just a few minutes. 1 second. Let me answer this text here. One second. There we go. Just responding to him. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Dynamite. We're not going to talk much, though, because, like I said, Revolution's tomorrow, and I want to get into that. We had the Ricochet and Swerve contract signing on Wednesday, which I did like. I think Ricochet is definitely over as a heel. Coming out there in that backwards hat, the glasses, what a little prick. Ha-ha! That fucking laugh. He's doing good. Like, I understand now. So many fans, why is he joining AEW to do the same thing? He's not doing the same thing. I understand why Ricochet wanted to jump now. He's doing different things. He's branching out. What would he be doing if he was still in WWE right now? Wearing the same gear, coming out to the same music, having the same matches, same exposure, no movement whatsoever. His spot on the roster, at least in AEW, he's doing stuff. And this feud with Swerve has been really great. Now, after they finally signed the contracts, Ricochet goes to attack Swerve with the scissors, but Swerve has got his own scissors, and he winds up bonking Ricochet right in the head with the scissors and opening him up and getting the better of that. So I thought the contract signing was pretty good. They would be back, though, in the main event, both guys in a tag team match, Ricochet teaming with Okada, and they beat Swerve Strickland, who was teaming with Brody King in the main event when Ricochet wound up nailing Swerve with the Continental Classic Championship belt to get the win. I really enjoyed the MJF and Hangman Page segment with MJF being interviewed outside, and then Hangman speeds up in the truck and MJF runs off. Hangman chases him. He grabs a hold of who he thinks is MJF, but it's an imposter. Then Max attacks from behind, gets a can of gasoline, pours it on Hangman, and tries to light him on fire before the officials stopped it. So I'm really liking this feud, and I'm really liking this whole card tomorrow. It's looking really good. The Toni Storm and Mariah May sit down with Renee. Mwah. Fucking great. So good. Also, Mariah May attacking Toni Storm on the red carpet of the Queen of the Ring premiere just a couple of nights ago. And for a lot of people that were attending that weren't in the wrestling business, watching that unfold probably was pretty wild to see that. So they are taking their feud all the way to Hollywood. It's so good. It's so good. Looking forward to that match tomorrow as well. Jay White beat Max Caster in one of his stupid little open challenge things, and he vowed to celebrate with Copeland at Revolution. And a lot of fans are thinking that maybe Jay White could be turning heel, and Wheeler Yuta might be turning babyface because Cope beat Yuta one-on-one, and then after the match shakes Yuta's hand and says, "This is what respect feels like," because Yuta's been the whipping boy, of the Death Riders, and they treat him like crap. So we could see Jay White turn heel and Wheeler Yuta turn face tomorrow night at Revolution. Collision tonight, which airs in about an hour, was taped on Wednesday as well. You're going to have the Ops and Harley Cameron in action. The Outrunners are taking on Nice and Daivari. Hologram versus Duralistico. Undisputed Kingdom versus the Infantry. And Momo taking on Serena Deeb. And we have Daniel Garcia versus Lee Moriarty, who's the current Ring of Honor Pure Champion, in a TNT title match tonight on Collision on TNT. So if you watch that tonight, I hope you enjoy it. Now let's start predicting AEW Revolution. This is a 9-match card, 10 if you include the 0 hour. And when I look at it, there's like 2 matches on here that I think are kind of throwaways. It's going to be the first 2 I talk about, but the rest of them, this is a card. I can't imagine. I mean, I put this on Twitter yesterday. I said, only in a world dominated by sheer and utter stupidity would anyone look at this card and then say, it's a mud show. These guys suck. I hope they die. Like, what kind of wrestling fan are you? What kind of fucking freak are you? If you look at this card and not think it's good and it doesn't interest you, okay, you are letting your tribalism and your obsessions overtake common sense. And you're robbing yourself of being a wrestling fan by not enjoying something like this. I can already guarantee tomorrow's Revolution is going to be great. Last year's Revolution was great. Most AEW pay-per-views are great. I don't think tomorrow's going to be any different. Now, the question is Tony Khan looking at what they did in WWE with John Cena and saying to himself, oh, I need to do something major on my show? I wouldn't necessarily do that if you already have creative plans in place that you're working on. Don't screw everything up, but there is a chance tomorrow night we could see something major. And I would love it if Copeland beat Moxley for the championship and then like Christian came in and cashed in or something like that. We might see something like that happen. Although at the same time, I don't know if we're really going to be seeing the end of the Death Riders right now. They've taken it this far. They might want to see it through with Darby winning. But if they do, that means it's another couple of months of this. And I just don't know how much more I can stomach, even though what they've been doing lately hasn't been bad. I actually haven't even hated the Cope and Moxley stuff. It hasn't been bad. But we have not even visualized with our own eyes that AEW championship in 5 months, 6 months, something like that. So it's time to get the belt back. It's time to have a normal champion again. And maybe, just maybe, Copeland can win. We'll talk about it. Let's start with the 0 hour. We got Big Boom AJ is back in the company again. So Costco Mania runs wild as he teams up with Orange Cassidy and Jay Briscoe to take on Jonathan Television and the MXM Collection. If Boom AJ is in a match, I'm going to pick Boom AJ. So Boom and OC and Briscoe will get the win here, and I think the little fucker will be at ringside for that one. The main card, let's start with the 2 kind of throwaways. Hurt Syndicate defending the AEW Tag Team titles against the Outrunners. Do we even have to say it? Hurt Syndicate, 100%. They're winning that. Mercedes Moné defending the TBS Championship against Momo Watanabe. Again, I'm sure it's going to be a great match, but Mercedes is not dropping that championship tomorrow. So Mercedes will retain the TBS title. Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay inside of a steel cage. That one's going to be nuts. It's going to be absolutely nuts. I can't wait for this one. It's going to be so good. Punk and Rollins are going to have a tough act to follow. Punk and Rollins, I'm sure, are going to have a great cage match on Monday. Ospreay and Fletcher are going to have a bonkers-ass cage match on Sunday, though, and I can't wait to see it. I got to go with Ospreay on this one. I believe they're 1-1 in their 2 encounters. I know Ospreay has suffered a loss to Fletcher. Fletcher got a win over him. So in a match like this, cage match, blow off, Ospreay all the way. I just hope both men survive and they don't do anything too super crazy, but who am I kidding? We're going to see not super crazy the wrestler, but some super crazy things happen in that match tomorrow, and I got Will Ospreay picking up the win. MJF and Hangman, what do you guys think? I'm curious what you guys think about MJF and Hangman. Who you got? It's a toss-up, but based on how intense this issue has become between the 2 guys, it's one of those situations, like I say all the time, like this isn't going to be the only match they have. This is going to be the first match they have. So even though MJF tried to light Hangman Page on fire with gasoline last week, if this feud is going to span 2 or 3 matches, and we're definitely going to get another one, I feel like Hangman winning later would be better than him winning this one up front. Either way, both guys are going to achieve a win over the other. I believe that. It's just a matter of who gets the first one. So I'm actually going to predict MJF to get the win over Hangman Page here. I think MJF beats Hangman here. Hangman beats MJF later at whatever the next pay-per-view is, or Double or Nothing or whatever. So that's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to go with MJF to get the win. Hangman, he's so stupidly over. I really think, him and Tony Storm are my two favorite men's and women's wrestlers in AEW right now. And I feel like Hangman Page should be seeing that world championship again soon. And he's over enough and has enough value to where he can lose anytime and instantly be warmed right back up. And I feel like he could afford maybe the loss here better than MJF could. So I'm going to go MJF over Hangman Page. Could be wrong about that, but that's who I got. We've got Swerve Strickland taking on Ricochet. Now, this is also a number one contenders match. We saw the contract signing for this on Wednesday night that had the scissor fight at the end. And Swerve and Ricochet, Ricochet has already beaten Swerve, right? And he got the pin on him on Wednesday. I feel like Swerve Strickland will win this match here. He'll then go on to challenge, Moxley, whoever, and maybe Ricochet costs him in that match. So like Ricochet and Swerve, I don't think are going to be completely done after this match, but I think Swerve is going to get the win here. Swerve is the one that should get the title shot. And unless it's Copeland, unless Cope wins the title, then I could see Ricochet winning here. But I feel on pay-per-view, you got to go Swerve here. I'm picking Swerve. Swerve to beat Ricochet and get a title shot. Kazuchika Okada defending the Continental Classic Championship against Brody King. I am really looking forward to seeing this match in the ring. However, I feel like I could have put this in the same category as the Hurt Syndicate and Mercedes Moné. Okada's going to win here. Brody, I think, should have his day where he wins a championship because the fans do love him. And he's a really impressively large person. And he can do some pretty amazing things in there. I'm a big Brody King fan. But I think Okada will retain here because we also have Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega for the International Championship. Takeshita has a couple of wins over Kenny Omega already. And I think what you want to do here is have Kenny Omega win the International Championship, and that at All In Texas, you do Okada-Omega unification match. That's what you do. So I believe Kenny Omega will defeat Konosuke Takeshita and win the International Championship. Takeshita's had a hell of a run with that title here, however. So that should be noted. I shouldn't so easily discount Takeshita because of the run he's had. But, he already has a couple of victories over Kenny. Kenny, you can tell he's not the worker he once was, although he's still phenomenal. But he's now on this part of his, this part of his career rather than this part of his career. So put the title on him now while he's in the ring. He's healthy. You got a big stadium show coming up in July. Him and Okada getting, that Wrestle Kingdom type of showdown in front of an American stadium audience. You already have too many singles championships as it is, so let one of those belts swallow up the other, and that's what I would do. Kenny and Okada at All In, but in order to get to that match, Okada has got to beat Brody, and Kenny has got to beat Takeshita, and that's what I've got. In a match that many fans feel should be the main event, Toni Storm defending the AEW Women's Championship against Mariah May. This has been an absolute wonderful masterpiece of a story to watch for over a year now. And I really enjoyed the Grand Slam match. That was their main event. The storyline, I think, is the top story in the company. And if they did put it in the main event, I certainly wouldn't argue, but I don't think it's going to be, and I don't think it needs to be. They had their main event at Grand Slam in Australia. That was great. Sure, they could main event again, but I feel like this is the Hollywood ending match, right? And it is in Hollywood. But I feel like the story is here, Toni Storm retaining the championship. If they were going to do a title change, maybe put it in the main event, but then you're swapping the belt back to Mariah May. And then what's going to happen? Toni Storm's just going to, completely shut down all over again and have to go through all that craziness after losing the title, after just winning it back. I don't see Mariah May winning the championship back here. Toni Storm, I believe, will retain. And I loved the sit down with Renee and Mariah on Dynamite. I love when Toni Storm said, the dignity of death would be too good for you. I want to sentence you to a life of mediocrity where you'll still be a star and everything after you're done with me, but you're not going to be as great as you could have been. And I'm going to see to that. And basically, it's going to be my life's mission to make your life less enjoyable. And it feels like she means it. So I got Toni Storm winning here. She's going to retain over Mariah May. And I don't believe that will be the main event. What will be the main event is Cope versus Mox. Couple of one-syllable wrestlers here fighting for the AEW World Championship. I would really like something fun here. I would love for Copeland to win the championship. And then I would love for Christian to come out and cash in and win the championship. I mentioned that possibility before. And I mentioned Tony Khan, wanting to have two names like that on your title legacy and your lineage. I would, if I'm a promoter and my company's only 5-6 years old, I've already got Bryan Danielson, I've got CM Punk on there, being able to put in a Copeland and a Christian or an Edge and Christian on there as well, put some legendary Hall of Fame names. That way, when people look back at my title history 30 years from now, holy shit, Christian was a champion, Copeland, that type of thing. I think about that stuff. So if I'm Tony Khan, yeah, it might result in a hot potatoing thing happen with Edge winning and then passing it right to Christian, who might then pass it back to Moxley or whoever. But it also might be kind of fun. Back in the Attitude Era, they were passing that world championship around every 3 weeks for a while there. So there's nothing wrong with going through a little stint where you just potato the F out of that belt. I have no problem with that. Not every run needs to be a year long. That's stupid. So have some fun. Don't have some fun just because you saw WWE do something crazy with John Cena. So don't uproot all your plans to do a big swerve just to get the world talking. Don't do that. But maybe there could be a chance that something like that could happen. And I would not be opposed to Copeland winning the championship. I wouldn't. I'm hoping he does. But when I really think about it, there's too many other factors at play here. Jay White, Wheeler Yuta. I feel like Mox is going to retain somehow. I mean, I really want Christian to come out there. I feel like there's a chance here Christian could be a part of this. Oh, man. I just don't know. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to stick with Moxley retaining the championship. Maybe something happens at the end. Maybe we get the return of Darby Allin or something, although I think we're not going to see Darby until after Everest, I think. Maybe there's something else crazy that we're not thinking about that could happen in the main event. Like I said, Jay White turning on Cope feels like it could be a possibility there. And if Jay White does that, fine. Then what does Jay White do after that? Just feud with Cope, I guess. And then Moxley is still champion. Wheeler Yuta, we could see him turn. We could see a double turn. We could see Yuta and Jay White both turning. But then who gets the better of it? Jay White or Yuta? Jay White helping Moxley or Yuta helping Cope? I just don't know, man. I really, really want to pick Copeland. I do. I want to pick him to win the championship. But I feel like ending the Death Riders angle tomorrow, and it wouldn't necessarily end it, but taking the title off Moxley, I feel like kind of would end it because they'd be pulling it out of the briefcase and whatnot, unless they did the thing where Cope wins, but Mox refuses to give the title up and he runs off with it in the briefcase and we still don't see it. And Cope comes out on Dynamite on Wednesday as a new champion, but no belt. Maybe they do something like that. But otherwise, it would mean essentially ending all of this that they've done when I think they already have their end game in mind. So I think they want to see it through. And when Darby does beat Moxley, that's going to be amazing. But man, you are taking the long way to get here. Moxley winning the championship or Moxley, retaining the championship tomorrow Would also be better for my prediction of the Swerve Ricochet match. Since that's a number one contenders match, you could then do Swerve and Moxley, and that's when Ricochet can screw Swerve, or a bunch of things can happen. So at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Jon Moxley reluctantly to retain the AEW championship over Cope. And I think there's going to be a lot of interference and a lot of people turning up in this match. But in the end, I think the belt will remain in the briefcase. So just to recap, the Hurt Syndicate to retain over the Outrunners, Mercedes Moné to retain the TBS title over Momo Watanabe. I've got Kyle Fletcher losing to Will Ospreay in the steel cage match. MJF over Hangman Adam Page. Swerve Strickland to beat Ricochet to become the new number one contender. Kazuchika Okada to retain the Continental Classic title over Brody King. Kenny Omega to win the International Championship from Konosuke Takeshita. Toni Storm to retain the AEW Women's Championship over Mariah May. And Jon Moxley to retain the AEW World Championship over Cope. Will we see Christian cash in? That remains to be seen. Will we see some big angle? I think the one match that I'm the most unsure of is actually the main event. And maybe MJF and Hangman. But I've got MJF and Mox winning those. We will see how right I turn out to be. I'm usually very good in my predictions. Went perfect in Elimination Chamber. We will see how I do here tomorrow. Make sure you join us, by the way. Go over to that video right now. Click on it. Save it for tomorrow night. We're going to be here watching the show, and I'm very much looking forward to being off tomorrow, kicking back, and watching what should be a pretty amazing pay-per-view from AEW tomorrow. All right, let's cruise back to the chat, knock out some more super chats and some questions here. We've got... Did I see a membership? Robert Jimenez has been gifted a membership by good friend of the channel, the Juliet316. Thank you so much for that, Juliet. Always hooking up people with memberships and making them a part of our family. Colin Wright, thank you for the two, my friend. Board of Mox and the Boar Horseman. Yeah, a lot of us are, but what do you do here if you're Tony Khan? If you've got this big grand plan for Darby Allin to have this big, huge victory over a champion that's overstayed his welcome. Think of the pop that Darby's going to get. You want to see that through, assuming that is the plan. So to change that up now, you might want to do that if it bores your audience to death. But when you really look at these segments lately, they haven't been bad. The Cope and Moxley and Death Rider stuff has not been bad. I haven't been watching it thinking it's stupid or anything. It's been fine. I'm just not overall in a big fan of the Death Riders angle as a whole. Because I had so many higher hopes for it, and it kind of let me down. So overall, I will be anxious for it to end, but if they've got this big plan for Darby to have a victory the way Sting, beat Hogan at Starrcade, and everybody comes in the ring and celebrates with him after all this tyranny, from Hulk Hogan and the NWO, Moxley and his crew doing whatever they've wanted to do, rolling up in pickup trucks, beating the shit out of everybody, holding the belt hostage. Finally all of that ending with AEW's, most popular over babyface winning the championship, putting an end to a very, very annoying and frustrating angle for a lot of fans. I mean, that could be a great moment when it finally happens, but AEW is asking us to wait another few months to do that, and fans like Colin and like myself, to be honest, can grow impatient. Juliet, thanks for the two. That's if Darby survives Everest. I had made the pitch to have Darby win before he goes to Everest. That way, if he dies, your champion died on Everest. That's a new one. Never would have thought that a wrestling company would lose its world champion as a casualty on Mount Everest. That's just crazy. So maybe they can get him in to win the title before then. And if Mox wins tomorrow, what's the next pay-per-view? It's not Double or Nothing. There's one in between, right? What am I not remembering? It's not Dynasty. Is it Dynasty? Is it Wrestle Dynasty? No, that's later in the year. Do they not do one between Revolution and Double or Nothing? They might not. Shit, I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Cope is going to win tomorrow. I don't know. Spartan Sprinkles, peace out. Duty calls. Yeah, my duty is about to be calling too. I got to get out of here myself and head off to work. And Michael Kumo, right? Not exactly on your 2025 bingo card. Neither was mine. I'm scrolling up here to some of these comments. Yeah, Travis Scott. He's going to get his. And the funny thing is, I don't even know Travis Scott. I've joked about him before. Off Leather Wings, thank you for that $1 earlier. I've joked about Travis Scott before because I've never heard of him. And when WWE said Travis Scott was going to be on Raw, I was just assuming it was a country singer wearing a cowboy hat. And I'm like, oh, he's a rapper and his name's Travis? Oh, okay. And I don't know anything about Travis Scott. So without even knowing anything about him, I would feel that he feels bad. If he's injured Cody, he probably feels like shit about it. So we shouldn't, Bully Ray shouldn't want to shatter his jaw. I'm sure he feels horrible. And I'm sure he's more than down to give the fans a receipt at WrestleMania. You know, Cody probably even told him, I got to fuck you up at WrestleMania, right? Oh, that's cool. Do what you got to do, man. And they work something out where they do a spot where they top rope power bomb him through a table or something. The fans can go ape shit and we got our revenge. That spot will happen. And that's why I think it's a happy accident. It sucks that Cody got his eardrum burst. Hopefully there's no long-lasting effects from that. But now this creates an opportunity during the match in the main event for Travis Scott to get his receipt. And it's going to be delicious. And he's going to deserve every bit of it too. Spartan Sprinkles dying on Everest would be the most Darby shit ever. Yeah, I'd be so sad about the tragedy, but it's kind of how Darby would want to go. You can't climb that thing and just assume you're going to live. You're not, you might not. There's a very good chance you will die up there. And so it's when people choose to do that, I can't really feel that bad if they die. I'm going to feel bad for myself and I'm not going to be able to enjoy the tremendously batshit bonkers in-ring work that Darby Allin gives us because he's dead, but I'm not going to feel sorry for him. He's the one that went up there. He signed up to do that. It's not like he was, if he would have gotten killed by that bus, when he got hit by the bus, a few months back, then yeah, that's tragic. But if you're risking yourself and risking your life to do something just for a thrill and then you die, I'm like, well, I admire your balls, but now your balls are dead. So hopefully Darby survives. Okay, thank you for that, Ryan. They do have Dynasty in April. So Wrestle Dynasty will be the April one. So we'll see what they do there. We'll see what they do at Dynasty. And then if Darby comes back and has the match at Double or Nothing or something, I don't know. Good point, Just Smitty. Before we get out of here, let's bring that up. Something I should have brought up when I talked about Lex Luger earlier. I'm sorry. The perfect person to induct Lex Luger into the WWE Hall of Fame would be Sting. Now, if Sting has some sort of an agreement with AEW, like a Legends type of deal or whatever he's got with them, hopefully that wouldn't stand in his way of being able to induct Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame. Assuming Lex wants Sting to do it, and assuming Sting wants to do it, hopefully Tony Khan won't be a roadblock there. It's an interesting situation. Fans are going to automatically assume it's Tony Khan being petty or whatnot, but he has every right and reason to not allow Sting to do this. I hope that if Luger wants Sting, that Khan will do the right thing and let Sting do it. But I sure as shit wouldn't blame Tony Khan at all if he's like, hell no, fuck them. All the thing that the 50 plus years of history of petty things WWE and Vince has done to stifle their competition at every turn. I would not blame Tony Khan at all for just refusing to cooperate. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't hurt anybody but the fans. Because if you have two companies that can kind of just sort of get along, they can do favors for each other. Billy Gunn was allowed to go do the Hall of Fame. Back when Flair was in TNA, he was able to come in and do the Four Horsemen Hall of Fame. So I'm hoping that if Luger wants Sting to induct him, that Tony Khan will not stand in his way. We'll wait and see if that becomes an issue or not, or if Luger just assumes Sting isn't available and he just has DDP do it. Hell, Cody could even do it because of Luger's history with Dusty. So Sting's not the only inductee, but he really is the best one. So I really hope that Sting is allowed to induct Lex Luger into the WWE Hall of Fame. That would make me happy as a wrestling fan. To see something like that be worked out between the two companies. Hopefully that's the case, but I don't really think we can talk about that until we get some news on whether or not Sting's even interested, wants to, or Luger wants him, or if WWE's like, look, we need you to have DDP induct you. Maybe WWE is making the decision for Lex. We don't know yet. But if Lex wants Sting, I hope Sting can happen. That would be really special. So Tony Khan, if you're listening, I know the other company sucks. I know they're assholes. I know they're petty pieces of shit. But don't be one too. Let Sting do this. Just let him do it. I think it would be phenomenal. Anyway, that's my farewell pitch to end this podcast. Please, Tony Khan, if WWE wants Sting to induct Lex Luger, let him go. Let him go do it. It would be fun. And that's a wrap on today, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Make sure you're here for the watch along, and we'll be sticking around for a review. It's going to be a bonkers night of wrestling. I am certain of it. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday night. If you plan on listening to this on demand later, I'll have it pushed out to the podcast feed later on tonight. So just keep a lookout for that. You guys have a good rest of your night, and I'll be catching you tomorrow for AEW Revolution. Peace.